Here are two scenarios where you might see that your relationships are really draining you. Now, number one might be when you come home, you are constantly criticized. Like, is that the way you really fold the towels? Or you didn't wash the dishes right? Or why didn't you take out the trash? Right? In a similar scenario can be happening at work when you share an idea with the team and somebody shoots it down and say, that'll never work, or that's not how we do things around here. Those kinds of comments aren't just uncomfortable moments that make you feel a little bit bad. These are signs of toxic communication patterns that slowly erode relationships, and they erode self-confidence. And without intervention, without changing these toxic communication patterns, you will continue to drain or have your energy drained. You will have your potential limited. And these invisible walls will be created between you and the people you work with or the people that you care about the most. Relationships should support you. They should not be leaving you feeling misunderstood or emotionally exhausted. And if you wonder, man, am I too sensitive to feedback or criticism? Am I too empathetic? You might start to think, man, is meaningful connection even possible for me anymore? And in a world where authentic connection seems increasingly rare, despite the basic common need to be connected, well, this is an issue that we need to address and address quickly. I know that it is possible to address these issues because these are experiences that we've all lived through, and I'm very fortunate to be able to learn some techniques I'm going to share with you, and I definitely wrote them down and put them in this book, The Power of PACT, Attracting Authentic Relationships. And I'm just going to share some of these things with you, because what we realize is, like, when we have these experiences, we might think that people are bad. But people aren't necessarily bad. We don't have the right tools in how we communicate. Matter of fact, this way of communicating has been normalized in culture. Being a straight shooter, I'm just telling it like it is. I'm just being honest with you. These are all things that are normalized in culture today and even celebrated, without recognizing how this straight shooter approach is completely dismissing people's feelings or making people feel small. And if the response is, well, you just got to man up, this is the adult world, I believe that there is a better way. Because there was a moment, I know for me, where I had a boss for a company that I used to work for who had this toxic communication pattern. And she did it one too many times, and I literally quit on the spot. And there might be times where you just want to walk out of that relationship or out of the house or quit your job also on the spot, but then you feel forced to be there because you have to pay the bills or because you've invested so much in this relationship, and then you sustain the abuse longer than we really want to. So how do we fix it? Because we might be able to fix the way we speak, but we also want to be able to change the dynamic when other people are using this kind of toxic communication to you. And so in this book, starting in chapter 7, there is a concept called toxic communication versus attractive communication. And it's in chapter 7 of this book. Now, the toxic communication are the examples we've already talked about. They make you feel shame. They make you feel less than. They make you feel judged. It's very critical, right? Attractive communication is done in a way that allows collaboration, and it opens people up and want to share their ideas with you and opens their mind to other possibilities, which is ultimately, if somebody's trying to be honest with you and be that straight shooter, that's what they really want. They just don't have the tools to do it. So how do we do it? The book outlines that in attractive communication, there are 3 C's. The first one is curiosity. If you lead with curiosity, that is the best way to start in most instances. Number 2 is clarity. If you speak with clarity and understand clearly, it avoids a lot of misunderstandings. And the third one is courtesy. So if you are courteous or tactful, we are not going to needlessly offend people, even if it's something that is not somebody's favorite thing to hear. Now, we might be able to use that easily with somebody else, but what if somebody, again, you're at work, you share an idea and they said, that's never going to work. Or you go to a home and they're like criticizing how you do domestic things or making certain decisions at home. You know what the number one response is? People think they lead with curiosity and with this response. Why would you tell me that? Why is this so bad? Why is this so wrong? And you know what ends up happening is that with that question of why, they are naturally going to respond in a way that defends their viewpoint. But what we really want is for them to open their mind to a new perspective. So instead of asking why did you say that? Why would you do that? We might start our questions with how and what. So the next time somebody wants to criticize you or shame you, this is going to require you to really keep your a high emotional intelligence and the ability to put your ego in check. But if you lead with curiosity and you say, or how can we do this better? That might be an even better question, to be honest. Now it invites them to share an idea that they think is a really good idea. And it also, without realizing it, it's a subtle way to train the other person how we would also like to be talked to. Now, when we use these kind of questions, leading with curiosity, what it then does is it gets other people to kind of express themselves, and people feel really good when they have an opportunity to express themselves. And then once they've expressed themselves, they are then more ready to hear a different idea. But this is how we do it. So you say, how do we do this better? Right? They're going to give their idea, and then you're going to follow up, and you're going to kind of feed their ego in a very honest way. You're going to say something like, what you say makes a lot of sense. And they're going to feel good about you validating their perspective, which is what you probably wish you had. So now that you've treated them the way that you would have liked to have been treated, this is where the magic really happens, because then you follow back, and you either are going to say, man, they really did have a better idea, I'm going to take it. Or if you don't think they had a better idea, after you validate them, you'll say, I'm not quite sure how my idea was so bad, or I'm not quite sure how my idea was so wrong. What makes that response beautiful is that's the third C. That's being courteous, because instead of attacking them the way that they attacked you on your idea, you have responded with the 3 C's. You've used attractive communication skills along with emotional intelligence in real time. That's going to get them to respond in a different way. That's going to open up their mind. When I use this technique a lot, what usually happens is when I end it with, I'm not quite so sure how my idea was or why my idea was so bad. And the number one response that they then give is like, well, you know what? It really wasn't. And then I didn't even have to explain it to them. They just started to self-reflect. They started to see how their words came across harsh and not with a lot of courtesy or tact. And then they kind of backpedal a little bit. And then they might even endorse your idea, or at the very least, they're open to hearing your reasoning for why you are doing things a certain way or how you made a certain decision. And that is that collaborative, attractive communication skill. When we use attractive communication skills and avoid the toxic communication patterns, we prevent misunderstandings and unnecessary tension that kills connection, but instead we communicate in a way that builds connection and collaboration. So if you can imagine using these skills now at work and having these conversations that are going to energize you, using these conversations at home with people you care about or with your friends and with your family, if you can picture yourself in having difficult conversations, because let's be honest, they're going to happen. They have to happen for us to grow. But you can walk into those difficult conversations knowing that there's going to be collaboration and a better outcome as a result because of the skills you possess. man, life gets better. And if not just you, but the other people that you are talking to apply the techniques of attractive communication that's outlined here, the positive effects are multiplied. So try the curiosity technique. If you feel criticized, be curious. Like, what makes you say that? How can we do things better? Invite them to open up in what their ideas were. Validate them, and then in a courteous way, just ask an honest question of, I'm not quite so sure, or I don't understand why my idea was so bad. And using that technique will transform these conversations. So share in the comments, what's one relationship that you felt was more energizing that could benefit from using some of these techniques? And if you would like a deeper dive into communication transformation, you could check out this book, Attracting Authentic Relationships with the Power of PACT, or continue to follow, like, and subscribe here, and I'll give you some more free tips. I'll talk to you next time.